In this video, what I want to talk to you guys about is the #1 activity that everybody should really put their magnifying glass on and consider doing more of, and consider actually regulating their cycles in which they do this one activity. And this is the one thing that most people in the Western world do not do enough of, and when they do it, they're doing it inappropriately. They're doing it in a way that is being disrupted and disturbed by their immediate environment, by their lifestyle factors, and they're basically stacking the odds in an opposite direction than they want to go in for hormonal health, for balancing our neurochemistry, for balancing our nervous system, and every other aspect of health and longevity. They're really putting themselves at a dramatic decline, and this one activity is sleeping. Right? The art of sleeping. This has become a huge topic as of recently because the statistics show that most Americans do not get enough sleep, and when they do sleep, they're not getting the deep, rejuvenative sleep that they really require for balancing out the entire system. And so this topic is specific to hormone balance in the way that I'm coming at it from, because our hormones are a symphony. And when we don't get proper sleep, or our circadian rhythms are out of balance, our hormonal harmonics are going to be out of tune. They're going to be playing out of rhythm, and certain hormones are going to dominate that shouldn't dominate. Certain hormones that should be following the leaders, like our growth hormones, for example, it's going to be inverted and out of place. So the harmonics are going to be out of tune, and then all the chemical signals in our body are going to be mismatched and mixed up, and we are not going to be getting the health results that we really want in our life. So our circadian rhythms, for people that may not really understand what that is basically the cycles in which our body recovers and anabolizes in relation to the ascent and the descent of the sun and the moon. So when the sun comes up in the morning, typically that's when we're signaled with a certain dose of cortisol or adrenaline. When we wake up and we rise with the sun, that's what we would do as indigenous human beings. When we didn't have artificial lighting, we weren't encased in a box like a house, for example. We were actually in rhythm with the rhythms of the cycles of the sun and the moon. And when the sun starts to come down and the moon starts to ascend, it starts to rise, that signals melatonin release in our pineal gland. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. So we just want to have that reference in terms of how are we going to organize our sleep cycles. Now, a lot of people out there are basically saying that you want to get to sleep around 10 p.m. and get up around 6 p.m. That's the ideal ratio there. And you know, a lot of research has indicated that when you get to sleep around 10:30, around that time, that's the primary blueprint for increasing anabolic hormones like testosterone, like progesterone, human growth hormone, insulin-like growth hormone, so on and so forth. All your major androgen hormones recuperate and rejuvenate between the hours of 10 and 2. That's what a lot of research is indicating. And then between about 2 and 6, generally speaking, that's when your psychological faculties are recuperating. That's when your neurology and your nervous system is recuperating and being replenished, so when you wake up, you feel brand new. You feel like you can get up and get with it, right? So that's just kind of a general blueprint. I don't necessarily believe that that's universally like concrete in that way for every single person. I think more accurately that in the world that we live in today, with all the demands that we have in our life and the different things like that that influence our sleep cycles, we just have to do the best we can and just understand that the right amount of sleep for us is really something that we need to put our magnifying glass on. We need to focus on that and make that a top priority in our life. And there's certain strategies to help us do that. I want to point out a few things though. in relation to the importance of proper sleep is that when you're sleeping, that's the only time your body is truly anabolic. Anabolic meaning in a state of repair, rejuvenation, growth, and really enhancing characteristics of longevity, of vigor and vitality. The only time you're truly in that growth state, that repair state, is when you're in a deep sleep, when you're in a REM state of sleep. And when you're awake, like I am now, you're technically catabolic, meaning that at some level, even if I'm not doing a lot, say I'm not breaking my muscle tissue down by working out, I'm still using up enzymes. I'm still using up methyl groups. I'm still using up all the little ingredients in my body that allow my body to catalytically come alive. And that requires energy. That requires certain micronutrients in my body, like enzymes specifically, that cause my lighthouse to come on, right? That turn my brain on, that turn on my hormone symphony. So we're technically in a catabolic state all the way from when we're awake to when we go to sleep. So that's just an important idea to understand. And what's really interesting about this whole conversation, I think about, is that most people are completely ignoring the signposts that their physiology is sending them. So their body is sending them signals all the time, and typically people will forego the midday nap in an effort to keep pushing on, to keep going on, to finish the workday, to finish the mission, whatever it is. And we just keep pushing on, and we forego our body's signal, our body's message for us to just sort of take a step back and actually replenish and actually take a nap, possibly an hour nap. Is so crucial, and all the greatest inventors and innovators in the world were actually known to take midday naps to actually recover and recuperate, so they could get back onto their mission with a fresh, a clean slate, right? Typically, what I've found is that people will forego the messages their body's sending them for rest and recuperation because of some kind of psychological holding pattern. Typically it has to do with scarcity. It has to do with some kind of fear around not being good enough, not having enough, so we think that we have to keep working, we have to keep pushing, because we're in this kind of scarcity mentality. I found that actually appears to be the most consistent underpinning behind that behavior, and I'm putting myself in that group as well. I used to carry out that behavior a lot because I was scared that time was running out and I wasn't going to be able to get enough done, kind of thing. So I've kind of transitioned, instead of being tired but wired, I've learned how to be tired but inspired, right? Doing what you love to do and taking care of your body and taking the cues from your body when you need to rest and when you need to jump back on the mission is a really way to stay inspired. And even if you're tired, it's better to be, fatigued because you're doing something you love to do and you're in a consistent state of inspiration. So beyond that, I also want to say one more thing too, is that research has indicated that whenever we get one night, just one night of poor sleep, it restricts glucose transportation to the brain significantly, right? So we've all had the experience when we wake up after a poor night's of sleep. We may have been out drinking, partying, just up all night and not getting the right amount of rest for us. We wake up kind of groggy, not feeling with it, feeling tired, foggy brain, all that, right? Well, this has to do with the fuel supply that's not getting to the receptor sites in our brain, causing us to create enough energy to kind of come back online and get with it. And so research has indicated that this is just based on one night of sleep. Now, if you carry this behavior out habitually, and it progressively accelerates that process, and what ends up happening is that people will have insulin problems, they'll have blood sugar problems, they'll have a depressed immune system, they'll have sexual dysfunction, and they're also going to have, late night cravings, right? So this is a big thing with late night cravings. It actually has to do with the lack of glucose or basic sugar molecules getting to the brain to create basic energy production in our brain. So we're craving more carbohydrates, we're craving more sugar, we're craving more food just to keep the machine running. It's being in this hyper-sympathetic state perpetually, constantly going, not being in a state of parasympathetic homeostasis, right? So what are the things that we can do to balance this out? Well, there's 3 things I'd share with you right off the bat. The number one thing is this. Research has indicated that people that actually wake up early in the morning and work out early in the morning, opposed to working out midday, and definitely opposed to working out late night, actually get a much better night's sleep overall. And this is somewhat obvious to me. I was an athlete for most of my life, and as a semi-professional athlete, I actually worked out 3 times a day. Now, I was fatigued and ready to go to sleep just because of the amount of work I was doing with my body. But I always noticed that when I'd go to the gym and I'd play basketball at night or work out later at night, even though I was training all day long, it would be hard for me to get to sleep. I would be kind of wired because what happens is cortisol is secreted midday, and especially at night. When that cortisol is secreted, that adrenaline is secreted from our adrenal glands. It stimulates our nervous system. It stimulates all the functions in our body and actually causes us to be in a state of a sympathetic state, right? Where we're alert, we're focused and actually we become a little more wired, right? That's the whole thing with being wired, is that you have a high amount of cortisol. So when you wake up in the morning, you want to actually secrete most of your cortisol when you wake up. Cortisol is not a bad thing. It's a necessary hormonal reaction in the body that allows us to get up. It allows us to move. It allows us to get on with our day and do what we got to do, right? But it's better to hit that button early in the day and really be as productive as you can early day, and then use the rest of your day to kind of down-regulate, to do more relaxing behaviors, and that kind of thing. So that's number one. The second thing is unplugging all the electrical devices in your room. You want to make your bedroom like a sanctuary, right? The first thing for most people is you've got to get the plug-in drug out of the bedroom. That's number one. And actually research has shown that couples that have a TV in their bedroom have a significant drop in their sex life, even up to 50% reduction in their sex life, just because they have a TV in their room, right? And I'm not going to go into say why that is, but just that it doesn't matter why that is. It is what it is. So get that out of, that has no business being in your bedroom. Your bedroom has a few functions, right? And the TV is not one of them. So anyways, unplugging all the electrical devices in your bedroom is key, because we don't want electrical or Wi-Fi stimulation disrupting our hormonal patterns, disrupting our sleep cycles, right? That's a really key thing, is electromagnetic pollution that's spewing in our environment. It's invisible. You can't touch it. You can't see it. You can't taste it. But it's actually influencing all the secretions of our hormones and the nerve conductions that are either allowing us to regulate and balance out and to actually get a good night's sleep, or to hyperstimulate us. So we want to be aware of that. Unplugging everything out of the wall and turning all your Wi-Fi devices off is critical. And then the third thing is blanketing your bedroom in darkness. This is a really key thing, and this gets overlooked a lot, because what people don't often realize is our eyes, our optical nerves, have photon pathways or light pathways that transmit into our pineal gland. And our pineal gland is what stimulates melatonin. Melatonin is basically, for lack of a bigger explanation, our sleep hormone, right? Our sleep neurotransmitter, right? When we look at neurotransmitters, we're looking at a conveyor belt that starts with tryptophan. 5-hydroxytryptophan or 5-HTP is typically what is recommended for people that have sleep apnea, that have sleep disruptions, that can't get with it. They're usually recommended to take a 5-HTP. Well, 5-HTP converts into serotonin. Serotonin ends up converting into melatonin. Melatonin ends up converting into dimethyltryptamine, which some people believe is the spirit molecule, and some people believe that's actually the molecule that gets secreted in the brain when we have vivid and almost lucid-like dreams. So very important aspect is actually being in a dark room, because when our eyes, even if our eyes are closed, pick up fragments of light, it disrupts the neurotransmitter conveyor belt that's happening that wants to allow us to get that rejuvenative anabolic sleep and the repair and recuperation that we need. So that's the importance on getting the proper sleep for you. Yeah.